What's up, y'all? It's Jeff Cobb, and you're listening to Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show on Social Suplex Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show. Listener discretion is advised at all times.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show. My name is Ricky and of course I am joined by my friend and co-host Clive. Good evening, Clive. How are we doing?
I'm alright, sir. I'm looking forward to tonight's event.
As am I. So before we introduce our two guests and before we talk about another NXT pay-per-view card, I just want to say this podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you with the best tools for your grooming experience. And I'll speak from first hand. I used it for the first time last week, and everything is perfect down there.
Before or after? Is this another perfect Ricky thing?
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't take before and after photos like I promised I would. I don't think that's appropriate to put on Twitter.
No. I will ask Marta Giannetti that one.
Right, so we said last week we've got two guests coming on, and fortunately they're both available and they're both here. The first person is one half of Keeping It Strong Style, the boss himself, Mr. Jeremy Donovan. Good evening, how are we doing?
Good evening, guys. Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Good to have you on. It's been a while. And our second guest is one half of the longest running podcast on our network, One Nation Radio, and that is Mr. James Boyd.
Yes, I know you're disappointed that you guys didn't get rich. Sorry.
That's quite the way to introduce yourself there.
I really didn't have anything good, so I might as well be self-deprecating.
I mean, just to like help boost the ego, like we never asked Rich at all. We went straight for you.
Wait, say again?
Just to help boost your ego there, like we never approached Rich at all. We decided we were taking James. So sorry about that, Rich.
Yeah, but that's only because like Rich like hates NXT now. So
that's true. Like I said, so we've got 2 weeks ago, mine and Caleb done our cards. Last week, Clive and Rance done their cards, and this week we've got, let's say, Jeremy and James coming on to do their cards. Just a quick rundown once again of the rules before the guys get into their picks. So we've got an NXT card that's going to be an NXT men's title match, a women's title match, tag titles, and then the North American title, as well as 2 random matches, and those random matches can consist of any match as long as it's not for one of the titles that have been mentioned. It can be for the NXT UK title, and it can be any non-title match. It could be or a blood feud, whatever people want. And you obviously can't use the same wrestlers twice. So, gents, which one of you want to go first?
Who's confident?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm basically going down the line. So my NXT men's title match is Almas versus Gargano at Takeover Philly. My women's title match is Sasha Bayley, Brooklyn 1, which I'm sure like swept the whole thing. If not, I don't know what's going on. My North American match is the North American ladder match from New Orleans in 2018. My tag match is Strong in O'Reilly versus Mustache Mountain from, I believe that's Brooklyn 4. And then my 2 wildcard matches, the first one is Walter Bate NXT UK title match. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm losing my mind. I take that back about the Mustache Mountain. I meant the Undisputed Era and Undisputed Era of O'Reilly and Fish versus the Broserweights from Portland this year.
Right.
And then my wild card match is Walter Bate NXT UK title match from Takeover Cardiff, and my last wild card match is Zayn Nakamura from, I believe that's San Antonio, from 2016.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the first time out of... This is the fifth one we've had, and that's the first for Almas and Gargano. Is that right, Ricky?
Yeah, like I said it last week, and I think I said it when we recorded my pay-per-view. It was like, that's my biggest regret, and I still regret it now, that I never put Almas Gargano on. Partly because I had Ciampa and Gargano. And I think I said last week, Almas and Gargano was the best NXT match I've seen.
A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, I think this pay-per-view might actually be better than my own pay-per-view. So I don't, like I said, if you want to sit and talk about each individual match, like I said, I've made my feelings clear about the first match that James named there, Gargano and Almas. Like I said, I think it's hands down the best match I've seen in under NXT. Yeah, like I can't really add too much more to that. Like I said, I think that match is just literally perfect from start to finish. So, Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is overall a really great card that James put together. I mean, a lot of my matches are very similar to what James put together, so I don't know if we want to run down my card, and then I guess we could have like a big discussion on all the matches.
Yep.
Yeah, we could do it, yeah.
Okay, so I named my NXT Takeover Jurisdiction.
Oh, nice.
Insider.
Deep cuts there.
So I'm starting from the opening match to the main event. So opening the show with NXT title match, Undisputed Era versus Mustache Mountain from TakeOver Brooklyn 4. Following up with Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn from TakeOver Dallas. Followed by the NXT Women's title match, Bayley versus Sasha Banks from TakeOver Brooklyn. Then I followed up with another wild card match. So it's the NXT UK title match is Walter versus Pete Dunne from TakeOver New York. Then in the semi-main, I have the North American ladder match from New Orleans. And then my main event is also Gargano versus Andrade from TakeOver Philadelphia.
We picked 4 of the same matches. Oh, that's funny.
See, that's going to happen because obviously there are many takeovers that are just well above average, but there are certain matches that stick out, especially within the individual divisions that we've slotted them in. But that's now, for the wildcard ones, Sami and Nakamura has come up a few times now.
Yeah, because Rance picked up last week.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got 3 the same for James. I had the same tag title match, obviously the same women's match, North American title match as well, and I had 4 because I had Walter and Tyler Bate as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And actually, Josh, before listening to our podcast, and I won't say anything actually, we'll leave that. But yeah, 4 of the same. I think 3 I've got the same as Jeremy as well. But as Clive says, I think we're going to get a lot of people picking the same, especially when it comes to that women's match. Like I know Rance picked. What did Rance pick last week? Was it?
I've got Rance's
and
Ember Moon, right?
Ember Moon.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he picked the Brooklyn 3 match, right? Because that was the best one of their 2.
Yeah, he picked the sequel. Yeah.
Okay.
I had Brooklyn 2 on my phone for some reason there. That was definitely the third one, yeah. Brooklyn 3. Just so I'm doing it, because I'll be doing a wee sort of... I was thinking about doing a poll on the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, take some screenshots of everyone's picks and then do a poll in that group, see what people think's the best one. So whoever's out of the 6 of us is the TakeOver booking champion.
Sounds good. But yeah, when it comes to the women's title match, I think that was definitely the one slot where it's like, I mean, there are like a ton of great women's matches, but if you're trying to put together the absolute best card, like Bayley and Sasha Banks at Brooklyn, hands down, I think is the number one pick to pick. I know, Rance picked the Ember and Asuka. I know I've heard some people talking about picking the women's fatal 4-way, and I think Josh says since he has another option that he thinks it's actually better than Bayley and Sasha, but I won't spoil that here. I'll let him enter his card in. But I don't know. I think Bayley and Sasha's best bell-to-bell women's match in NXT history. The story going into it was just so great, and Sasha just being the ultimate heel and Bayley being this underdog face, and everybody wanted to see her win. And just throughout the match, Sasha just being a jerk, stomping on the arm, pulling off Izzy's hair bow. It was just so much great character work. This is perfect. Great character work, great build, great actual in-ring action. This is the perfect package of a match right here.
Yep. So you were so into, or that feud was so good that you actually merged that match with the Iron Woman match. Sasha pulled off of Izzy's headband when they went back into Full Sail in the Iron Woman match, but there was a spot where Bayley had the Dusty Rose casting on her arm, and part of that got ripped off in the middle of the match. That was also the arm that Sasha stomped on when she rolled back when Bayley was reaching for the ropes, when Bayley was in the bank statement, and she rolled her back to the middle of the ring, kicked off the bottom rope, and then slapped her back into it. I think it's now at this point the second greatest women's match in WWE history, behind only Becky and Charlotte from Evolution in 2018.
Right.
But either way, it's still just I think is those two. It's almost like who's the greatest wide receiver in NFL history is okay, it's Jerry Rice, it's Randy Moss, and then it's everybody else. I think those are the two that stand at just on a different level compared to the rest. No knock against Ember and Asuka, no knock against the women's 4-way, no knock against women's War Games or EO versus Candice, but they just were not on that particular level that we're talking about.
That the last women's standing match, I think that was pretty much an overwhelming victory for votes when we did the main roster best ever card. So many people picked that one, and I can understand why. James, see that? Am I right in saying you were at Full Sail for the Respect Takeover Respect? So I can I've got no issues with you picking Sasha versus Bayley 1. But I would have thought that maybe with you being there, and that was a crazy atmosphere that night, maybe that would have pipped it for you.
Yeah, I'm big into my experience, but at the same time, I also go back and rewatch them.
Right.
So, once you get past that, you can kind of get the idea of what other people feel about it. For example, I liked just off initial viewing, because I was there for New York. Because that card was so incredible, and I was at a distance away. I kind of felt the first time watching Gargano in Cole 2 out of 3 falls at New York, I felt it didn't peak until the third fall, and then I rewatched it a second time, and I remember watching the Takeover 25 rematch, and I thought the Takeover rematch was better on the second, first initial view. And then I finally got around at the end of last year watching the first, the New York match. And I was like, nah, bro, the people that think that this is the potentially the greatest WWE match ever, I see why. It's incredible. The wrestling's incredible. And then once you watch the third fall and see how hard they're hitting each other, you're just oh my goodness. You can't feel that unless you're right around ringside, the shots they were giving each other. So I understand why people, feel it's over 5-star match.
Right. I think, see, when it comes down to that women's match, Rance has obviously went for Asuka and Ember Moon, and it is one I'll need to rewatch, but there's going to be so many people picking this women's match that I think it might just be defunct. Right, okay, let's accept that is the best NXT women's match, just from overwhelming opinion, basically.
But I also think sometimes, not sometimes, but just because the answer is so obvious, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. I don't think there are certain picks here that I just don't think you need to overthink, and I think this was the one that stood out the most. It was I could have went, like you said, a couple of different ways, but the reality is, that stands out more than anyone. And I think Jeremy says, like, when it comes to like NXT, like, you know, the reality is, like, there's not too much difference between like some of the better matches, in the sense it was like, well, we're going to be kind of picking straws here, like, you know, nitpicking was like, well, there was something wrong with it. You know, like, the in-ring quality in NXT is always going to be great. I think what really separates this is because it was just a months upon months of the storyline, and obviously Sasha being this horrible heel, and Bayley ultimately, you know, getting her crowning moment, and you know, it was huge. Like I said, I think the story more than anything is what makes this so great. Like I said, in-ring work, you know, is going to be great, but the story was just unbelievable, and I think that's what that I'll always remember from it, and I think that's what carries so much weight when you're talking about the greatest NXT matches, because I don't think you can ever forget just exactly what the story was and how monumental of a victory it was for Bayley at the time.
It was beyond epic. It was excellent stuff.
Also, you can't forget about the Super Poison Rana spot. That's like instant highlight, and I think that was at a time where they weren't really doing Poison Ranas yet in NXT, but of course all over the world and over the indies, like Poison Rana was like number one spot, and so to see it in a WWE ring, and then to see it off the top rope, and to see it with two women, like, just put that moment like over the top.
And it was perfect as well. It was just textbook.
Yeah.
So right. So sorry, Clive.
No, on you go.
I was going to say we'll move on to another pick that both guys picked. Clive, I know you're not a huge fan, but we'll go with the North American title match.
Right.
So obviously, like I says, Clive didn't particularly like this match.
They're strong words. They're strong
so
words.
You're not a fan of it then? This was my pick as well, and this was obviously the debut of Ricochet as well. And I remember talking and I love the EC3 and Adam Cole spot, and then Adam Cole starts super kicking everyone. And I even says, like, it was the two big guys on the match, Killian Dane and
Lars.
Lars, yeah.
Like, I was like, like, you normally sometimes don't associate like big guys standing out in these kind of matches, or even having these kind of matches. Like, I thought they two played their part really, really well as well. I thought they looked really strong. Like I says, overall, I thought it was a terrific match. You know, and for the highlight probably would be when Ricochet comes flying off the top rope and Adam Cole meets him with a super kick. Like, overall, I just thought this match was excellent. I think it opened the card that year.
Yeah, I think it did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, like, big fan of this match. Big fan. I think the only disappointing thing, or the unfortunate thing, is we don't have like a deep history of the North American title, and so we were really, I think we're only like single digits where we could have picked from. But like I say, this was my pick, and it was I still really like it. Still one of the better ladder matches we'll probably ever see, or certainly for a while.
Yeah, I think the thing about the North American title in NXT is that the people that have had it, when it comes to this kind of exercise or whatever else, you want to deploy their champions elsewhere. Like, you want to deploy Adam Cole somewhere else. You want to deploy Ricochet somewhere else. You want to deploy Johnny Gargano somewhere else. Like, if the North American title match was off the table and I still had to do this exercise, I guess I would go with Keith Lee and Dijak from Portland this year, because I still can't like obviously the best singles match that's been done with the North American title was Phoenix with Ricochet and Gargano, but like you can't quote unquote waste Johnny Gargano on a damn near 5-star match, because that's like his 5th or 6th best match in Takeover. So like it's really hard when it came to the strategy of trying to figure out, like, all right, who are your guys, who are the people that, you know, are your best matches or whatever else, and how to deploy this to try to fill out all 6 matches as best you can.
Quite a lot of strategy is involved in putting it together. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly like you were saying, James. As we're putting the card together, you're looking at, obviously there's several key guys you want on the card. You want Gargano, you want Cole, Andrade, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, like Nakamura, Zayn. Like, you have all these big guys that you have to fit in the card. And like you mentioned, when you're narrowing down, all right, which 5-star match of Johnny Gargano's am I going to put him in? And it's like, well, why not make it your main event and the world title match and close the show off with that banger? And then you got to find some place for Adam Cole and Ricochet. I mean, you could have put their singles title match on there, but putting together this card, why not throw a gimmick match on there and get more bodies on the card? You get EC3 and Velveteen Dream and some of these other guys that were top stars in NXT, and you get all these guys 6-1, and then that match is just incredible. I remember we watched that match, in our little rental in New Orleans the next day after. Because we went to the Ring of Honor show that night. So we watched it the morning of, and just seeing how great that was, and just we're all big fans of Ricochet before coming to NXT. So seeing him on a WWE stage, especially when you wouldn't think he would be like on a big stage like that was cool, and just the spots he was doing. And then EC3 was just killing himself in that match.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, he did an interview. I forget who it was. He was on a podcast last week talking about. He's like, "Yeah, I know that I'm not a flashy guy, so I'm like, I got to kill myself."
Like, I think for me, like him coming in and doing that, given what his rep was, and given that, you look at him, you're like, oh, that's just a WWE, that's just a Vince McMahon body guy, and you see how he is trying to murder himself on multiple occasions throughout that match, to get it over, and he did, and it, like I feel like they did nothing but ingratiate himself to the anti Vince McMahon's professional wrestling types. So like you go out there and you're willing to take a beating, take all these bumps through ladders and get sandwiched, and could potentially cause internal bleeding to try to get a match over. I felt like that carried him a lot of favor, and that led to with the music and his charisma, that's why he ended up getting over as a babyface for a while in NXT until they moved him out of there.
Yep. He ended up having a match with Velveteen Dream the next takeover, which wasn't that great, was it? Was it that one?
Yeah. It was that was Brooklyn 4.
Right.
Against Velveteen.
Oh, right. It was a SummerSlam weekend. That's right.
Yep. It didn't work over well, but ultimately, I think the Velvet or EC3, like the second you saw him and saw the match he was having, you just thought like, this is meant to go to the main roster and deal with that there, because like he's a great promo, he has great charisma, he's the kind of quirky charisma that like means that he can do some comedy and do wacky stuff that Vince wants, and then he gets there and they basically made him like a male gigolo, like he was just a man for hire.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was really weird that it didn't work out, because it's like if this don't have nothing to do with, doesn't want that dude to work, like who is he going to like get behind to try to make in the future?
Yeah, because that was just the general consensus when he first signed with NXT, where everyone was saying, like, this isn't a typical NXT guy. You're kind of going to have to wait until he gets to the main roster before you kind of maybe start to see him flourish a little bit. And like you say, is like he just comes across like what Vince would want in his wrestlers, and it just never worked out like that.
Yeah, he was saying in the podcast interview, I think it was with Jericho. Yeah, I was talking to Jericho. He was saying that he got called to the main roster and they were doing these vignettes with him at his pool, and he was being over the top, and then Vince saw it and he was like, "You're too over the top, pal." And then they started doing the promos where he's like in the mirror flexing, and he's like, "Well, Vince thought I could only do over the top, so he didn't want me to talk at all. So he only just wanted me to look in the mirror and flex." And he's like, "Vince, I have other ranges. Like I don't just I'm not just over the top. I can do serious. I can tone it down. Like, but apparently Vince wasn't having that. So, but it's so weird. He's a guy that was in their system at one point. He was on the original game show NXT as Derek Bateman. Left, got in incredible shape, jacked, went to TNA, had a world title run that was pretty good. And like normally guys, like Drew McIntyre that leave, get in better shape, have world title runs, come back, and eventually get some kind of shot. But yeah, once he got to the main roster, just really not got out the gates for him.
it doesn't sit well for me because it's like somebody with that much personality, charisma, and like mic skills and like versatility to do comedy, do serious. Like, I thought y'all like to say y'all don't like pro wrestling, y'all want to do movies. Like, if you have somebody with that kind of range, deploy him. It was just weird to me. It's like, y'all, okay, so like this whole batch of people, like he was in that batch with like Lars, who I don't know where Lars is, right? Like, Lacey Evans, Nikki Cross, and also Heavy Machinery. Is like, you mean to tell me out of that group of people with like this 5'10" like statuesque blonde woman, EC3, like the people that they end up working out for y'all is like Nikki Cross as like a bottom of the mid card babyface waiting to get turned on any day by Alexa Bliss, and Otis. Like, Otis is meant to be a prelim comedy person that sticks around forever. Like, he's meant to like replace the Heath Slaters and R-Truths of the world, and like that's a role that's me make some good money, without having to take a bunch of crazy bumps. So good for Otis, but like that's the best you do. Like Ricochet came in the next batch along with Aleister Black. Aleister Black gets protected just so that he can get his ass whooped like by Seth Rollins. Like, it's all worth. We protected them so that we could not protect them anymore. Like, you're on your own now. It's just really weird, that whole batch and crop of NXT talents from the last 2 years.
Well, you brought up Velveteen Dream a minute ago. And speaking of Velveteen Dream, we at Social Suplex have the grooming product for you.
Oh, God.
Oh my.
Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team just spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created and released a new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce manscaping accidents. Millions of balls are about to be nick-free thanks to Manscaped's advanced skin-safe technology. Accidents are finally a thing of the past. And this is a premium product. The battery will last up to 90 minutes just in case you're quite bushy downstairs. I don't know why they tell us this part. The water-resistant technology allows you to groom in the shower. One of the coolest features about it is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming. Maybe you can do some shadow puppet work as well. And they've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. Don't forget about the charging stand. You can show your mower off loud and proud because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. If you're listening to this right now, first of all, I apologise for the lead into this, especially since the boss of Social Suplex is on, but I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. So trim that junk of yours and you can get 20% off plus free shipping if you use the code SUPLEX when the checkout area at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. Ricky, would you like to move on from this awkward moment? Thank you.
That was probably the best and one and only time that you've nailed it without making any kind of mistake.
I was trying to get over my really bad taste joke.
Yeah. Right, okay. What else matches did we have the same year? Both
Nakamura and Zayn.
Yeah, I joked, and I mean it's not really joking because it's probably the truth. This is like Nakamura's one and only good match in WWE.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
No, that was awesome. Like, I think the thing that kind of stood out the most maybe was just right before Nakamura's music hit. Like, there's the image of Sami Zayn kind of sitting in the corner and he's smiling. You're obviously thinking to himself, like, this is going to be a great fucking match. Like, he's looking forward to it. Like, you could see that coming through the TV. And I remember when William Regal initially made the announcement to Sami Zayn saying, well, you don't have an opponent, here's your opponent, and it was Nakamura on the screen. I do, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek when I say it's Nakamura's only good match in WWE, but I think it's by far his best match.
Yeah.
Whether it's NXT or WWE main roster, and I would probably put. Again, some people might say, well, Sami Zayn and Neville, but this is, if it's not Sami Zayn's best match, it's probably in like one of the top two that he's been involved in. Everything about this match was just truly, truly awesome, and then that was still King of Strong style Nakamura. I thought I said as well. Like, I thought that would be, if you'd never saw him prior to NXT and WWE, like, that was the closest thing you'll ever see of who he was beforehand. And yeah, like, match was just awesome. Like, from the moment Sami Zayn came out, the crowd were at a fever pitch throughout the entire match. Probably, like I said, it's one of the greatest NXT matches of all time, and it's one of, like I said, just that moment before Nakamura makes his entrance, like, you can see everyone kind of on the edge of a seat, like, you know, like, really at an all-time high. I think it's a great fucking pick.
Yeah, and I think that the timing was perfect too, because, you know, Nakamura just a few months ago had the AJ Styles match at Wrestle Kingdom, which, you know, was an incredible match. So everybody was like still like hyped up about that match. When you think about Nakamura, like, that's the last thing you think about. Like, oh yeah, he's had this incredible match with AJ. Now he's going to wrestle Sami Zayn, one of the, you know, best wrestlers in the promotion and one of the best wrestlers in the world. Like, there's no reason why this match shouldn't be incredible. So I think there's a lot of hype and excitement for Nakamura coming to NXT and just seeing what he can do. And like you mentioned, Ricky, it's pretty much like they just plucked, you know, Nakamura from New Japan and put him in NXT. He was still King of Strong style, pretty much still wrestling the same match style, and so it was awesome.
Yeah, take off on that. Like, I think it's one of the best introductions in WWE history. NXT main roster, whatever. Like, he comes in, he ends up getting the best entrance music of the network era. Comes out. He is, like you said, like, he's ported literally from that January 4th show into, you know, a few weeks later in San Antonio, and he's wrestling Sami Zayn, and he's wrestling a style that we thought will never be allowed in WWE. And Sami Zayn's matching him, and you have, like, you know, one of the greatest baby faces of the generation, like, you know, punching a downed opponent with his bare fist at a certain point, like the match of brutality. It was a match that, honestly, like, when I first saw it, like, look, I love Nakamura. I love watching the New Japan, like, shows when I watched it at the time, like, sporadically. But, like, at that time, I was literally scared shitless of that kind of wrestling. Like, are people really going to be doing this going to bring that over here and wrestle this kind of style? And then, like, that becomes, like, what people want to do, and, like, what does that mean for, you know, CTE and stuff like that? Like, I was legitimately scared to death of that of, like, strong style and, you know, King Roll style and all that, and head drops and all that stuff. Back then, I've grown more accustomed to it, but, like, seeing that was just like, to see that in the WWE ring at the time, just like, I can't believe they're actually doing this. I just couldn't believe it. It was an incredible match. And also, you know, it's, Rich says, like, the line of demarcation from NXT is the actual developmental brand to, no, this is something else. We don't know exactly how to describe it yet. We know how to describe it now, but, like, that's the time when it moves on to something else. And also, this is, like, you said, also at the end, this is you sending off Sami Zayn to the main roster for good. And he, at that time, he probably was the greatest NXT performer of all time. So it was like, it had so much going for it, including not just the incredible match. Like, you know, like, at that time, if you had told me that was the greatest match in NXT history, I would have been like, I would have had no problems with it. It just so happens that, like, it seems to have been surpassed, but, like, it definitely is an all-time NXT, you know, match that should be mentioned for greatest matches ever in whatever, like, top 10, 15, 20 lists you have.
See, another thing that doesn't actually get mentioned as much, because James was saying there about it being really hard-hitting, this was basically an exhibition match. And because it was seen that way, you could see that both wrestlers were enjoying themselves, and to see them lay in such hard-hitting moves and strikes and hit chops to the chest and all that stuff, they were doing it just for fun, and the crowd were loving it. There was no animosity, nobody to boo, nobody to sort of single out for cheering, so there was a whole feel-good factor to it as well. and because of that, because of it being exhibition, you could just sit back, put your feet up, and just watch them with joy kick the shit out of each other.
Yeah, and that was also the night where the both these guys chants was born.
Right,
like
right.
The crowd
it?
just, yeah.
Oh, man.
The crowd was loving it so much, and they wanted to cheer for both guys. It's like, both these guys, both these guys.
It's kind of sad to see Sammy. Oh, he's not wrestled in a few months, but it's just kind of sad to see him now. I think injuries have well and truly caught up with him. Obviously, you're never going to wrestle the same style on the quote-unquote main roster as you would in NXT, but like I said, there was a period where this guy was, like, if not the best wrestler in the company, then certainly like one of the top 2 or 3. And I said, and how, I suppose it's kind of similar to the Bailey thing, like how you can mess up such a beloved babyface the way they did, and never pushed him the way they did and booked him properly. It's mind-boggling. Because he could have been an absolute superstar as a babyface for you, because everything about him was just was great. They messed up there.
Yeah, they got Sami Zayn handed on a platter, and I remember they had that huge the Kevin Owens match they had. I think it was like in 2016. It was it Battleground?
Yeah,
they had that last match.
Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
Yeah, Battleground 2016, one of the sleeper banger pay-per-views. That was like the quote unquote last time they were billing that as, and Sammy got his win, and we thought this might be something, and nope. But that was pretty much the last time he had it seemed like he had a lot going for him at the time. That last match he had with Owens, or the last build match he had with Owens.
Uh-huh. And Kevin Owens went on to win the Universal title like a month or 2 later.
Yeah, that was so weird because, Owens lost. So you're like, all right, so clearly they're going to go with Zayn and try and move him up the card. But then Owens ends up winning the Universal title, and he ends up, getting pushed to the top. And then Zayn just, free falls down the card until we just don't see him anymore, until he becomes a heel.
It's bizarre.
I remember after that match thinking, okay, they're going to put him. Sammy just won his big match. They've been doing this thing where they've been trying to book him like Daniel Bryan, where he loses. Well, he just finally won him a big one. Okay, cool. Where can we send that energy to? And I was thought to myself, all right, let him go fight Rusev for the I think it was the U.S. title at the time.
Yeah.
Nope, that's for the big dog. And I'm just like, and then you think about the feud with against Rusev, and it was okay. So Roman Reigns shows up and is disrespectful to Lana in front of Rusev, and then they start fighting. Why would you do this to Roman? It's just why would you put Roman in this feud just to they have him to do this side quest thing for a secondary title, and then why would you make him a jerk, and also what are you gonna do with Sami Zayn? And then I guess really the answer for that is later towards the winter of that year, you end up having him do the program with Braun to help get him over as a monster. I guess that's really all they used to capitalize off of that big win at Battleground, really.
Mm. We're all shaking our heads.
Yeah, it's this company.
What was it? Was it 3 matches you had to say, or was it 4? No, I can't remember.
We also had Gargano and Andrade.
I want to leave that for last.
Okay.
So
NXT title match, as I always say, championship match always closes your pay-per-view.
So I think we had 2 different undisputed matches. I had undisputed in Mustache Mountain, and you had undisputed in Broserweights, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. We'll go with the Mustache Mountain, and that was Jeremy's pick.
Yeah, so that was from Takeover Brooklyn 4, and like we mentioned earlier, when you're putting together these cards, there's certain people you want to have on your card. Roderick Strong is one of my favorite wrestlers ever, and I'm like, I gotta find a spot for Roddy on this card. I love Kyle O'Reilly. I was like, I gotta find something for him. I love Tyler Bate. The Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne matches were tempting. Tyler Bate and Walter match was tempting, but just the way I structured my card and in a way to be able to get Roddy and Kyle on, like, it just made the most sense for me to do this Mustache Mountain match. This was just a great matchup. This is a spot where, Bobby Fish is hurt and Roddy steps in, and Roddy and Kyle just had amazing chemistry and proved to me, I think, it's the better duo between him, Kyle and Bobby, and Roddy and Kyle. So yeah, I love Roddy and Kyle together. It's just an excellent match and just amazing chemistry. And yeah, you want to talk about, NXT has just been the home for tag team wrestling the last couple of years. And you talk about your Revivals and American Alphas and DIYs and just all these great teams that have come through. And then you bring in, Undisputed, and you bring in Mustache Mountain from the UK, and they just had a spotlight and it's just killed it. And they had a great rivalry too.
Yeah, yeah. Like, that's the crazy part is, like, that is their second best match.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that match with on NXT, like the show and this Inside of Full Sail, like Trent Seven put on like a masterclass in selling in that match. Is like, that's like one of the best like match. Like obviously, like, my opinion doesn't matter more than anyone else that watches wrestling, but like, I feel like if you were someone that was aspiring to be a wrestler, like, you have to watch that match and plug it in just to watch Trent Seven sell in that match alone. But back to the actual Takeover matches, like, this was like the pull out all the stops thing, and it didn't have like the same story of, one guy's better than the other one. Let's isolate the pin eater and torture him to death. But like, it was still played on to an extent, just not as well as the first one, but like, it was a great feud. It really was. And honestly, like, this would have been my pick on my second card. I made two lists, whether or not I was allowed to use the Takeover UK or NXT UK stuff, NXT UK takeovers. So if I was not allowed to have used the NXT UK takeovers, this would have been my tag match. But like, I ended up settling for Broserweights versus Fish and O'Reilly. And I also agree, like, I honestly feel like the only person I really with an opinion that I respect that likes Fish and O'Reilly more than Roddy and O'Reilly is Josh. That's really the only person I really feel that I know that says that I actually care about what they say.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things, and I watch a lot of Ring of Honor too, and Kyle and Fish as Red Dragon were an incredible team. They had great matches with the Bucks and a lot of teams in Ring of Honor, the Briscoes and the Junior Tag League stuff in New Japan, and they are an awesome team. And Bobby Fish is good, but I've always liked Roddy Strong as a singles guy. He's, like I mentioned, he's one of my favorite wrestlers, but there's just no doubt to me that him and Kyle together were just better.
Yeah, it's like you get more. It's more athletic, like, and they're not the same. Like once you put Fish in, Fish is like, okay, slightly less athletic, less charismatic O'Reilly. Like when he's in the ring, and those are not against it. Like having two Kyle O'Reillys, effectively, and playing heel is awesome. But it's like Roddy just has so much explosion and snap and a motor. Like he's just. Like, Roddy's just one of the best wrestlers in the world, flat out. Like, he just is. Mm-hmm. So, no rest holds. Like, I love the way he wrestles so much.
He ain't going back.
Yeah, not at all. Like, I mean, and the thing with them is their run, like, you could have picked the Mustache Mountain match from Brooklyn. You could have picked the Chicago match with Lorcan and Birch, where Lorcan ends up breaking an orbital bone. You could have picked the match in Phoenix when they finally put over War Raiders too. Like they killed it. Like that run with them as like champions was just, that might be the last great like championship tag match run that we have in NXT. But it was awesome. Like, and I mean, it can go against the Revival run. It can.
And the Undisputed Era, the UK tournament that preceded the whole Mustache Mountain stuff.
Yeah,
they had a 6-man tag with Mustache Mountain, and then it was Roderick and O'Reilly. They lost the titles in London in night 2 of that tournament, and that was another excellent match as well. So a trilogy of amazing tag team title matches between those 4 guys. So I'm in big agreement that I'd much prefer the Roderick Strong Kyle O'Reilly pairing.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, but I also think that the Kyle O'Reilly and Fish. Not that we're going to knock it or anything like that. That was still a good pairing though. But like you said, Roddy and O'Reilly were just like that level right above it. And as Jeremy said, like just instantly became this great tag team. Personally, when I think of NXT tag team wrestling, I still think the Revival are the best tag team in the world. But when I think of NXT tag team, the Undisputed Era automatically, for me, come to the forefront. That's the very first team I think of. It used to be like you said, American Alpha and the Revival, but now for me it's Undisputed Era. And I know, like if you really wanted to look into it, but we need to remember that Roddy turned on Pete Dunne during that tag match, and then obviously like you can correlate that there's a story the entire way that ultimately brings in the other members of British Strong Style to take on Undisputed Era. And like I said, it's just unfortunate that the NXT match that they had on the TV wasn't a takeover match, because that would probably, I think that could be everyone's pick, perhaps. Just unfortunate, but like as you said, that's 3 bangers that they've produced, and like that's another great pick.
Yeah, like if I were thinking of best NXT Tag Championship matches, the 2 that immediately come to mind are the second match between Mustache Mountain Undisputed and the second DIY Revival match in Toronto. But it's just like, like how do you want to deploy Ciampa? How do you want to deploy Johnny on your card? Like it's just like that you're never going to get around it, and that's the same problem you have with Bate and Dunn.
Yep. No picks for Bate versus Dunn yet, actually, and that was Chicago 2017, I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
strongly considered though.
Definitely. It's good that the UK. I mean, obviously the UK takeovers have been like we've thoroughly enjoyed them, but to see the title matches in America, there's takeovers and they've all been solid. It's great to see.
Yeah. Like,
well, the Vault. I remember at the time when Vault and Pete Dunne get put on the WrestleMania weekend. You're like, that's good and bad. Very good because it spotlights NXT UK. But I remember at the time saying, I wish they'd done this at an NXT takeover kind of thing. And I know we got to see the rematch later on in Glasgow, like 6 weeks or so, whatever it was down the line.
That was a shenanigan one though. That ended.
It was still a good match though.
It was.
That was the only thing I remember at the time, just saying, I really wish you just put this on it. I think if you put that match on an NXT UK takeover, I think that would have sent like a strong statement in the sense that we take this brand serious, but like the moment you put Walter into that brand, I think it I don't want to say it legitimised it, because you still had some great wrestlers, but I think it certainly brought more eyes to it, and a lot of people were like, oh well, okay, they are taking this serious. It isn't just a British wrestlers cast off kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I remember after the first Blackpool takeover, and Walter comes out, and it's almost like a video game where like both Walter and Pete Dunne both like do their taunts in front of each other, and you're just like, I cannot wait until the next UK takeover so they can go out here and kill each other. And I remember, getting ready for the New York trip, and then like you hear like they're putting that on there. I was like, I feel so sick for these dudes, but like I'm going to be there in person to watch this. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be awesome. And look, think about the match you got, and then think about what happened at Cardiff with Bate and Walter. And it's like, well, you did get the better match, but I understand. I totally would have wanted like what Pete Dunne was in my opinion at that point in time, like maybe the best champion outside of Okada, was the best champion that was going in the world at that time. And like for Walter to have to literally pry it out of his cold dead hands with like a million things and finally keep Pete Dunne down, which was like the kind of like what the Pete Dunne championship match was. Like you beat him, he clamps back down on his mouthpiece and keeps coming forward. And like I love that match. it was a match that I considered putting on here, but I was able to put on the Bate and Walter match. But like I thought about it, and I remember walking out of Brooklyn at the time, feeling like the best match I saw in that building in Barclays was Dunn versus Walter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was the best. Sorry, Jeremy. I think that was the best match of that weekend, and I remember saying that at the time. Going into that match, I just remember I was like, I really hope this lives up to expectation, because like we absolutely love NXT UK, and it was like, right, well, if they don't deliver, you know, there's going to be more jokes and people saying, look, it's a rubbish brand, blah blah blah. So I remember at the time, like, this needs to deliver, it really has to deliver, and I just said it was fucking awesome. So it really was. And I was actually at the Blackpool Takeover, the first one, and when Walter's music initially hit, you know, there was kind of people like, I remember I had a couple of people around me, we all kind of looked at one another, and you looked over, and then you realised, you're like, oh my, because no one expected it. And then when you had the image of the two of them in the ring, you were like, oh fuck, this is like, I've never rewatched, and I've said it, I've never rewatched that pay-per-view because I don't want any of my memories to be spoiled from it, but I would never ever rewatch that moment, because being there and having it live, like, people lost their shit. It was just, that was awesome. That was an awesome moment.
I gotta tell you, like, the Blackpool Takeover in Cardiff, like, crowds are just incredible. Like, they're just incredible. And I mean, also on that Blackpool Takeover, I think there is a match that could have been picked for best Takeover tag match. Like,
Clive picked it.
Yeah, Grizzled Young Veterans versus Mustache Mountain. That was also another like 4.5-ish banger. Like,
I love that
Mustache
match.
Mountain, like, you know, we just talked about it. Like, on the sneak, like, they belong in the top 5 for greatest tag teams in NXT history.
Definitely, yeah. But yeah, we were talking about, you know, Walter and Pete Dunne. That was a match I had on my card from New York, and like James mentioned, yeah, we're getting ready for New York, and then you figure that match is happening. I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome, and I feel bad for you guys, but yeah, us being there live and getting there to watch that match live was just incredible. And just like you guys, like that night just like you said, James, when we left that building that night, in my mind, Dunn and Walter was the best match on that card. And I have not rewatched this show, but that night, I guess it's like, man, that match was just so hard hitting, and like James, you had different seats. You were sitting with Fenichel, but we were literally all the way in the back, the very last row in the building, all the way up against the wall, like the very last row, all the way to the top, nosebleed section, and I could feel Walter's chops all the way up there. Like, that match was just so hard hitting and so physical. You felt just everything all the way up there. And I was just entranced in that thing. And I love Walter. You know, Walter has become a staple of, you know, Mania weekends for us. You know, we've been to, you know, 3 Mania weekends now in a row. And, you know, he's one of the top guys in there and has great matches on all the indie promotions. So seeing him now on this big stage against Pete Dunne, and, you know, it totally delivered. It legitimized that NXT UK title even more, because, you know, Dunne did a great job of his title reign. But having a guy like Walter, one of the best, you know, independent wrestlers in the world, coming in, signing, and winning that title in that epic war, just elevated the title, elevated the brand. And like you were saying, Ricky, like, bringing Walter in did help legitimize that brand more. And be like, all right, this is not just like a kiddie table. This is where, you know, big boys are coming to play here, and this is a brand you need to pay attention to.
Do you remember Walter's
feeling
chop in Full Sail? Sorry, Ricky, do you remember Walter's chop to Adam Cole in Full Sail that time?
Oh my gosh.
Just
knock the soul up that man.
I can still hear it to this day. It's still ringing in my ears. Sorry, Ricky, on you go.
No, that was it. Like I say, you just never expected Walter to end up there at all. And part of you is kind of just thinking, well, when is he eventually going to go to America full time? But it doesn't seem like he'll do that, which is kind of good for us. And speaking of that Blackpool card, like, there was Jordan Devlin and Finn Balor took place on that card as well.
Yep.
That was another, like, I remember when Finn came out, like, again, like, that was the biggest pop of the night, because again, it was completely unexpected. Thankfully we didn't get to see Travis Banks versus Devlin.
That was the opener, or was that the second match?
I think that was the third match.
The tag match was the opener?
The opener was a tag, and I'm sure it was Dave Mastiff and...
Eddie Dennis?
Yes, yep. And then it was Finn and Devlin, and then it was a women's match. Tony Storm and Rhea Ripley.
Yep.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Walter's music playing. Like, here in Florida on the Largo Loop, like, they had been using Walter's music for Marcel Barthel even before Imperium, before, that was even a thing. And they would use Walter's music for Marcel Barthel. So we'll be at Largo Loops like, wait, is Walter coming? And it would just be Marcel Barthel. I'm like, they trolled us. And so when you heard the music at Blackpool, it's like, are they like doing something with Barthel now? And then Walter actually comes out, was like, all right, here we go.
Oh, God.
So we'd mentioned it's like this. So James went with Walter versus Tyler Bate.
Yes, sir.
I also went with that. I think so. Before I let James in it, like I think it was a better match out of the two, but I think Walter and Pete Dunne maybe meant more in the grander scheme of things.
Yeah.
But that Devlin and Tyler Bate and Walter match, like, I remember watching it and I thought it was excellent. Personally, I think it might have went a few minutes too long, but that didn't take away my enjoyment of it at all. Because sometimes some matches feel like, you've ruined it by going 5 minutes too long. But no, like, I thought everything about this match was absolutely fantastic. And like I say, the in-ring work, that's all I really care about, was just off the charts. But I picked it. I thought it was a great fucking match, and it's like two back-to-back bangers that Walter produced with guys of British Strong Style.
Mm-hmm.
In the build-up to that match, a lot centred around like how he took out Tyler Bate first, and then took out Trent, and then before Tyler kind of came back. This was by far the best NXT UK match we've had. And I think the great thing I can say from just like a British or UK point of view is that this also still stands up with anything you'll see across the pond when it comes to NXT. So I think to say something like that took place over here and it stands up against anything that's produced over in America, I think that says a lot.
It's a good point.
Yeah. I understand it's an NXT podcast, but like, straight up, I remember after going through my best of 2000 or my 10 favorite matches from the whole entire world, from the main roster to NXTs to AEW to Stardom to New Japan to whatever Jewish promotions I was watching, and just like last year for me, Bate Walter, I think it finished third for me for my favorite match of the year. Like, it was just, it's the best big man small man match I've ever seen. Just the story of, I took out his back, and then you have literal Mighty Mouse, just lifting this dude up left and right. The power bomb against the post. And then the last, I don't know, 5 or like 10, 15 minutes is just incredible. And then, you get the end where he gets power bombed and it gets stacked up on his shoulders. He kicks it one. And Walter's face is just shocked, and then he takes out the last bit of fire he had with the lariat. But it was just an incredible match. Like, Bate would get something going with the hurt back, and then Walter would just chop him in the back. It was just
that's right.
Just an incredible match. Just an incredible match.
Yeah, that match was awesome. That was also in like my top 10 of the year. I think it was my third or fourth top match of 2019. Yeah. And I think it was probably one of the best matches we watched that day. That was a day that it was like Takeover, there was the New Japan UK show, and it was All Out, I think.
Yep.
And Bate and Walter, that was the best match of that day, and one of the best matches of the year.
It's just, I thought when you'd asked before we started recording, can we include UK takeovers? I thought you were going to say Jordan Devlin versus Tyler Bate, because I remember you were a big fan of that match when it happened.
Yes. It is probably my is one of my 3 biggest most overrated matches of the year. Whereas like I gave it a certain rating, and then like the worst I feel about giving it, like it is a 4 and 3. Like I gave it 5 stars at the time. There are matches that I have given 4 3/4 stars to that I feel like are better than that, but it's still at worst a 4 3/4 star match. It was an incredible match, like, and it was a match that for Bate I felt like was essential. Like he needed to get off the schneid on an NXT UK takeover and win a match. So the wrestling was incredible, and the ending finish where he goes up and hits the corkscrew. Like Bate is one of those dudes where I think like match per match, skill per skill or whatever else, I feel like there aren't. I don't feel like there are even 2 handfuls of people better than him. I just don't.
No, I would agree. He hardly puts a foot wrong ever, and he's been in a lot of big time matches.
Including the crazy thing is how young he is, and seeing him debut in that UK tournament, the first one, I think he was 19 during the first tournament, and a few years later he's still in his young, barely mid-20s, and just what an incredible performer he is at this age. It's like this guy still probably has 20 years left probably of a career. Like there's no reason why this guy shouldn't be a top star in a promotion around the world.
Yep.
Yeah, we just got to get him some knee pads because he's not going to have a 20-year career without knee pads.
So I think that's us on to the last match, and both of you have picked Johnny Gargano versus Andrade Almas from Phoenix. Is that right?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Sorry.
Yeah, Phoenix was the Royal Rumble takeover for the year after.
Right. At the time, I think War Games 2018 pipped it later on for me, but Philadelphia at the time, that was the best takeover I'd seen. I thought it just the quality of the matches got better and better as the night went on, and I thought leading up to that night, takeovers had peaked elsewhere in the matches. So if it was a mid-card match or a tag title match, but this was the first time in a long time that I felt the last match of the night was the best of the night, the Gargano-Almas one.
Yeah, they finally put Gargano in the main event. Like, that's really what it came down to. I mean, I could probably go for 10 minutes talking about this match, but I'm just going to simply say it. Like, I don't know, from just a technical wrestling and storytelling standpoint, if there is a better match in WWE history. And I'm putting that against, Austin and Brett. I'm putting that against Undertaker and Shawn. I'm putting that against Shawn and Angle. I'm putting that against some of those tag matches with Austin and Benoit and Triple H and Jericho in the 2001 era. Like, just an incredible match.
Jeremy?
Yeah, match was incredible. Two of the best, pro wrestlers in the world. In both those guys, it was a big spotlight for them because, Gargano, they had mainly been doing, DIY, was mainly a tag wrestler. And then Andrade, his push was just kind of up and down. Like they came in with a kind of smiling baby face with suspenders, and then that wasn't really working out. And then they finally turned him heel and, put him with Zelina Vega and get the ball rolling. And this was like the kind of the climax of both of their pushes and getting both of them in the main event scene.
That whole thing with Almas was weird leading up to that because it was Drew McIntyre he beat for the title, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And before that, they did this thing where he was just not interested, and then Zelina Vega came along. And for me, the Drew McIntyre match was okay, wasn't anything special. But when this one came along, I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. And I remember the doc Chad Matthews talking about this match, and he's got some, as a doctor in real life, he's got some experience with this, that when Andrade did the double knees to Gargano's face on the ring post at the apron,
yep,
Gargano had this far distant look on his face as if he was genuinely concussed, and Chad picked up on that. So that's some good selling there.
Yeah, this was obviously, they had their match on like on the bottom half of Brooklyn 3, and it was a banger as well. But this was just like taking that and taking it to a main event level, and like paying off all of the Zelina cheating throughout the months leading to that, with Candice coming out and clearing out that situation, and like. That might have been the time to actually have put the belt on him, but, they went on making him run after it, and they waited another 18 months, and in retrospect, they probably should have chose any extra between, when they decided to actually pull the trigger on Johnny and those in this match we're talking about. But, I mean, I do appreciate the booking of the NXT title. Like, winning it means a whole hell of a lot, and it doesn't matter if you're the best babyface in the company. Like, you have to go on a path towards earning it. And at the time, it just made that match was so great. It was like, okay, champion stays champion. The babyface got over like crazy in a losing fashion. It made you feel like this separates the haves and the have-nots, and Johnny's gonna have to earn it. And like. That run makes you appreciate it, but, the injuries mounted up. It's an unfortunate thing looking back in retrospect over the whole history of the Gargano thing. But at that time, we were having conversations like, is he the next guy? Remember? Like, it was crazy. And it was like, this is a dude that, like, I had got behind just off the strength of watching 2 tag matches. I wasn't even watching NXT, the television show like that. I was just watching takeovers. And I was like, this dude's incredible. And then, like, to get to that point is like, wow, like, all of this happened, like, very, like, seemingly out of nowhere. Like, I don't know if this was intentional, but, like, it seems like they're running with it, and, let's see where it goes. I could talk about this forever, so I'll just leave it at that.
What are your thoughts on it, Jeremy, then?
Yeah, I think too. Like, I know we're talking a lot about Gargano, but I think we can talk about Andrade a little bit.
Yes.
And, I mentioned him coming in as babyface and then not working out, and I don't know. I was very surprised. I think a lot of people were surprised when he beat McIntyre for the title, because at the time it seemed to be like, oh, it's just the challenger of the month, and McIntyre is going to beat him, and they're just going to keep pushing McIntyre, which I was fine with. But then he pulls out the win on McIntyre, and it's like, oh, okay. Something different, and then we're really starting to see what he can do in the ring in this heel role. And then it comes to this match, and it was like, all right, maybe it's a transitional thing. Maybe they're just putting the belt on him to get it on Johnny, and then he's going to lose. But then he ends up winning, and it's like, oh, so they're actually going with Andrade, and this whole push that they did with him was just awesome. And he's another guy that you watch him outside of WWE as La Sombra. He has stuff in CMLL. He had a rivalry with Nakamura in New Japan for the IC title.
Yep.
And you'll see the incredible stuff he did there, and you weren't really seeing that in its initial few months in the promotion. But then once he turns heel, you start to see a glimpse of what he can do, and he's really turned it on in this match, and then just being the champion.
Yep.
Yeah. And you talked about the transition thing, like, we thought, like you mentioned, like, transition to Johnny, really was like, is it transition to Aleister Black? It was kind of like, whoa, we didn't see that coming. But, like, that was another one of those matches, like, I feel like it's one of the more underrated matches in NXT history now, because of all what happened with the 2 5-star matches on that same card. But it's like, almost putting over Aleister was a great match, and it was a great finish as well. Like, you want to do, all the cheating and stuff or whatever else. All right, well, like, here is your manager. I'm kicking you in your face while your hands are holding up your manager. But yeah, like, Almas at that time was just like watching him, like, because when you watch him with Johnny, you're like, Johnny's like a very great technical wrestler with timing and all that kind of stuff, but like, the person that is like making this work is like the better athlete, which is Almas, in like how vicious he can be. Like those double running knees to the post, like or into the corner, like he was vicious. Like that back elbow was just disgusting. he would, if it needed to be, like, he'll hang you over the top of the rope and hit you with the, that DDT, with, the no-handed DDT. It's just like, the dude had so many gifts. The moonsault, like the landing moonsault, the moonsaults again after he lands, like, we don't give him enough credit because, like, his run was short with the title, and it was like, well, this dude's so great that, like, like it is with every Mexican superstar in WWE, we got to make another Rey Mysterio, bring him up to the main roster, and he's doing what he's doing now. But it's like at that time that wasn't far fetched, and you see the matches he have with Rey, and you see it as like this dude is one of the best wrestlers in the world, like a lot of the top of NXT over the years. Like, what happens once he gets to the main roster, and he would have these matches, these great team matches with Brian or with AJ or with Ray, like we mentioned, but it's just like they never decided to actually like really go with him, and you kind of just wonder why. And it can't just be because he doesn't speak good English. Like, you can find workarounds for that. You can. It's like, stop being lazy. Just please, like. It almost became like a comedy of sorts to see like all these NXT talents we're talking about, and like they get to move to the main roster and it's like this dude or this woman was incredible, and then they get to the main roster and they just like something negative happened.
It's an odd one.
Like I said, this is my favourite NXT match of all time. I think I remember it was around about this time last year where I was boldly predicting that something like, well, Almas is going to win the world title or universal title or some sort, like maybe by the end of the year or certainly at some point in 2020. Similar to Sami Zayn in the sense that, like, do you realise what you have here? Like, do you realise just how gifted and great this guy is? And as James says, like, surely it can't be anything to do with his English because you've got a great mouthpiece in Zelina Vega, and they complement each other, especially in NXT, so well. And even when Candice and Zelina Vega had that kind of altercation outside the ring during the match, like something like that actually added to it as well.
Yes,
like, so I think for so many people that get called up, like it's like I hate saying called up because it's not true anymore. In that sense, but they completely botched. It's still relatively early because it's been is it 18 months or so, really? When he's been on the main roster, it's maybe not even as long as that, is it?
He's been around since after WrestleMania 34.
That's just two and a bit years.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 years.
Yeah,
because it entered the Royal Rumble, didn't it, that year?
That's right. The night after.
Yeah, so 2 years.
Yeah,
2 years.
Well, that did he was in the Royal Rumble that year, but like I think Adam Cole was in there that year. They bring in NXT call ups, do whatever, spot here and there, whatever else, and then they'll take you back. Like, I don't want to bring it up, but like the Walter Survivor Series thing, right? So, or even what they did with Riddle this year in the Royal Rumble, where, they bring him in, he throws out Randy Orton on a sneak, and then like Adam, the crowd gets excited, and then like, well, let's throw him out with Baron Corbin for heat.
And that Walter Survivor Series thing, I almost forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but it's just funny in retrospect that like actually like if we had known at the time, it's like actually like the babyface in that situation was Corbin. Corbin was trying to throw out the trash.
So, I think that we've covered them now. So what we'll do is, Ricky, before we do the quiz, I'll just run through these again. James and Jeremy's picks once my phone decides to work. You've got a quiz for us this week, yes?
Yes.
Good man. So Jeremy's, which with the catchy title Takeover Jurisdiction, we have Undisputed Era versus Mustache Mountain from Tag Titles Brooklyn 3, Sammy versus Nakamura at Dallas, Bayley versus Sasha Banks, Volta versus Pete Dunne, the North American title ladder match, and Almas and Gargano. And for James, we've got...
Well, Well, can I actually name my takeover?
Of course.
Yes, NXT Takeover Retribution.
That was actually what I called my main roster pay-per-view, was Retribution. So I had the...
It all fits. All fits.
I had the crystal ball for that one. So James is...
I still maintain that Caleb probably had the best pay-per-view name when it came to the main roster one, the Final Wash. And again, insider joke.
Caleb is just an insider joke. He's got Andrade Almas versus Gargano again, Bayley and Sasha Banks, the North American title ladder match, Fish and O'Reilly from the era versus the Broserweights, Volter and Tyler Bate at Cardiff, and also Sami Zayn versus Nakamura. So those are the cards. As I said earlier on, we will do a wee poll to see who you think is the best one. I'll put that up on the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group at some point over the next day or two. And also keep an eye on our Twitter. There will be information on another t-shirt giveaway competition. So it'll be the same kind of thing as last time, where you send in screenshots or just free text of your best takeover that you can put together by next Tuesday. We'll collate the results, read them out on the show in our listeners submissions episode next week, and we'll pick a winner. We'll decide how to do that in due course. Pick a winner and get you a free t-shirt from ProWrestlingTees.net. So, Ricky, you're going to bless us with a quiz this week?
Yep. Obviously, you want to tell the people your buzzer?
My buzzer is, it's true, it's damn true.
And then Jeremy and James, if you've got a buzzer.
I'm going to go with Adam Cole, baby.
I'll go with -5 stars.
Right, here we go. Question number 1. Nakamura's first singles loss in NXT was to who?
Adam Cole, baby.
Yep.
Was it Samoa Joe?
Correct. Question number 2. I'll give you multiple choice for this. How many different reigns has there been for the NXT tag team titles?
Oof.
So is it 20, 21, or 22? Different reigns. So
Adam Cole, baby.
Yep.
21.
Correct.
Oh, Jeremy's out the gate. Early doors here.
Question number 3. Samoa Joe made his NXT debut at which takeover? Now, not necessarily his first match, but just when he first appeared on NXT.
Oh, it's true, it's damn true.
Yep.
Unstoppable.
Correct. Where he came out and confronted Kevin Owens.
Mr. Owens,
that
yeah.
horrible music.
Question number 4. Who was the winner of season 4 NXT?
Oh. Season 4. Was that the one with the women?
Oh, it's true, it's damn true.
Yep.
I was going to say this before you said the women, Jeremy, but I'm guessing it was the Bellas.
Nope.
No, they were on the main roster by then. Adam Cole, baby. Was it Naomi?
Nope.
Am I right in saying season 4 was actually recently? Like, they had 3 seasons.
I was there was 5 in total.
Oh, I'm getting confused with Tough Enough. Just ignore me.
Right, I'll give you a clue. Right, so your clue is Fashion Police.
Adam Cole, baby.
Yep.
Fandango. He was Johnny Curtis at the time.
Yes. Question number 5. Who were the final 2 participants in the 2013 Battle Royal number 1 contender match to face Big E for the title? The final 2 entrants. It was just on a normal NXT show.
-5 stars.
Yep.
I'll take a shot. Bo Dallas and Sami Zayn.
James gets 1 point.
Who for?
Bo.
Oh, both, right. I thought it was 1 point each.
No, yeah, 1 point each, so you can buzz in for the second point.
But which one did he get correct?
Bo.
Bo? I thought you said both. B-O-T-H. Oh, it's true, it's damn true.
Yep.
A stab in the dark here. Corey Graves?
Incorrect.
Adam Cole, baby.
Yep.
Was it Jinder Mahal?
Nope.
Big Jinder.
I know he had a little push in NXT.
I'll give you the clue. Former 205 champion.
-5 stars.
Yep.
Neville.
Correct.
Wow.
Clive.
Okay.
Clive.
Uh-huh.
Clive, you hang your head.
How? Because I didn't know about a 205 guy?
Yes.
Yeah, come on, 205 Clive. You're killing the gimmick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name's not
It's 205 Live, and you forgot about the King of the Cruiserweights.
Yeah, my name's 205 Clive, not NXT Clive.
Question number 6. Leo Rush defeated who in a number 1 contender match for the Cruiserweight title on the debut?
Adam Cole, baby.
Yep.
It was Angel Garza, right?
No, it wasn't. So I'll finish the question. So Leo Rush defeated
Oh,
who
it's true.
in
It's
number
damn
1?
true.
Okay, there you go.
Oney Lorcan.
Correct. Question number 7. Same show. Roddy Strong defeated who in the North American title match?
-5 stars.
Yep.
Velveteen Dream.
Correct. Question number 8. Which title reign lasted longer? Adam Cole or Asuka?
-5 stars.
Yep.
Asuka.
Correct. Right, so I want to change these questions around. Okay, doke. So this one is worth 3 points.
What's the score so far?
Yeah, I should probably double check that, shouldn't I? So Jeremy and James are on 3, Clive's on 2.
Okay.
No, James could be on 4, sorry. Let me see.
Yeah, James got the last couple quickly there.
2. Yeah, James is on 4, Jeremy's on 3, and Clive's on 2.
I'm the jobber.
Right, so this one's worth 3 points. Name all the tag teams, not individual participants. Name all the tag teams that were in the first War Games match, NXT War Games match.
Oh, it's true, it's damn true.
Yep.
Sanity, Authors of Pain, and Undisputed Era.
Is that your final answer?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you 2 points.
I watched this a couple of weeks ago.
I should hang your head in shame once again. So you got 2 right. You got Undisputed Era right, and you got Sanity correct.
Adam Cole, baby.
Shit.
Wasn't the last team Authors of Pain and Roddy Strong?
Correct.
Oh, you wanted the whole thing? Right. Well, I know Roddy Strong.
I wanted the teams.
Right.
Right, hold on,
I mean, I did know that. It's just I left that part out.
So wait, is it all 4 points apiece.
It is.
How am I going? Right, this is so. This question is worth. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 points.
Oh, for God.
It's too much. It's too much work for just 1 point. It's too much work for 1 point. Right, here we go.
That means maybe you shouldn't.
Maybe you shouldn't have done the question.
I wanted to. I thought of this straight away. Right, so here we go. Name all of Asuka's opponents for her title defences. Now, it doesn't... I know there were a couple in there that she faced multiple times. I only need them once, and I don't need them in order. I just need all 8 names.
Mine is 5 stars.
Yep.
Nikki Cross.
Yep.
Heidi Lovelace, Ruby Riott.
Yep.
Ember Moon.
Yep.
Oh, Mickie James.
Yep. James needs one more, needs one.
I will throw out, Peyton Royce.
Correct. Do you know the other 3?
No, you let them guess amongst it.
Oh, thanks, James. That's very considerate of you. Well,
Adam Cole, baby.
Yep.
Nia Jax.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Emma.
I
think that was at London. That was before the title, I think.
Oh, that was in the title match.
So there's 2 left.
Did James say Bailey?
Nope.
Bailey.
Oh, yeah, Bailey got the rematch. That's right.
I know the last one. Can I get a point, please?
Yeah, let him guess. Let him guess.
Go for it. Go for it.
Well, if you say Peyton Royce, who else is going to be involved?
Yep.
Billie Kay.
And the Fatal 4-Way.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So James is your winner.
By quite the landslide, thanks to the bizarre question.
Yeah, I
at the
mean,
end.
you could have...
Yes!
You could,
The last 8-point question.
Imagine doing that in the Quiz Time Invitational, you'd be crucified.
Well, you know what? I'm glad James won. That way Rance can't come on here and cry about how I win everything. So...
Oh, I think that's a number 1 contender match being called out there. So, guys, do you want to plug your stuff before we head out?
I mean, you're about to plug their stuff anyway. We're all on the same network.
I know, but they're here so they can do it better than me. Do you know what I mean? So, James, since you won, you can give us your details first.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you guys noticed this, and I'll get to it. But like, if you notice, like the stuff that I answered is like stuff like after like the last half of NXT's history. Like when I was actually watching, like the other stuff, I was like, I don't know. Everything else, like boom, 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 pick it up. But yeah, you can reach me on Twitter not reach me. You can follow me on Twitter at JamesBoyd87. You can also follow One Nation Radio on Twitter as well. That's really about it. On Sundays, me and Rich do One Nation Radio's podcast. We do about around the world, covering stuff like NXT, AEW, Stardom, the main roster, whenever the main roster does something really good or really bad, and anything else that comes up, like, you know, a Snoop Dogg and DMX versus, or a Michael Jordan documentary comes out, that kind of stuff.
Jeremy?
Yep, so you can follow me on Twitter at Jeremy L. Donovan. You can follow my show at KI Strong Style. So you guys know, young boy Josh Smith and I host Keeping It Strong Style right here on this network. Drop every Tuesday. We're covering everything from New Japan Pro Wrestling, so you can check that out. Also, you can check out socialsuplex.com. I've been doing weekly Dynamite preview columns every week for AEW Dynamite.
And are you officially calling out Rance Morris to a duel of some sort then?
No, I was just poking fun because I heard last week where he was, he was throwing out some conspiracy theories saying that, Josh and I win everything, on Ricky and Clive, and accusing you guys of favoritism. But I think you guys have been very fair over the years.
I mean, I will say, as soon as I saw your card, I did say to Clive that I know who I'm picking, and half the cards weren't even in at that point. So I knew from early on what my pick was going to be. No bias here whatsoever.
Well, I think for this takeover one, we'll think of a different way to pick the winner, because that stressed me out. I thought I would be losing friends and everything over it. It was horrendous.
Picking the takeover winner is going to be hard, but see if we eventually do the worst pay-per-view of all time, that's going to be fun.
Oh, that'll be hilarious! I can't wait. We'll get Rich on for that one.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Oh yeah.
I'll just press record and just say, right, Rich, on you go.
2017 Battleground will be on his list, definitely. Hell in a Cell last year will be on his list. There's also one from 2018 that sucked as well. He definitely has the shitty pay-per-view all lined up. Especially if you go into the WCW territory too, he has it on lock for that as well.
Maybe for the NXT one, maybe all the people you've had on, we could all be judges, and then it's not you guys. Then me, Caleb, Rance, James, we could all judge with you.
That sounds fair.
That's actually a good idea.
See, Mr. Social Suplex is the man with the plan.
Oh, does that? That means we need to socialise or interact with Caleb even more than we do.
See, Caleb, it wasn't me that buried you this time on the network. It wasn't me.
He just messaged me about 10 minutes ago talking about Scrubs.
Oh dear! Right,
not surprised.
The other shows that we've got on the Social Suplex Podcast Network are Grown Men Watch This Shit. They're in a bit of a hiatus at the moment, but they'll be back soon. Get in the Ring and All Things Elite. Give the podcast a 5-star review on podcast app of your choice. Help us with the analytics and get us climbing up the charts. I've mentioned earlier about the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, so if you're wanting to get involved in that poll, head over to there and sign up. Subscribe to it. We are at Ricky and Clive on Twitter. You can also get the podcasts and columns sent directly to your email inbox at socialsuplex.com if you press subscribed. Subscribe, not subscribed, because that's just a pointless button to press. The ProWrestlingTees.net has a Social Suplex page if you want to get some of our t-shirts from our podcasts. And don't forget, head over to manscaped.com. Get 20% off plus free shipping if you put in the promo code SUPLEX. James, Jeremy, thanks very much for coming on tonight. That was a good discussion about all things NXT.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I can't wait your invitation and when we do a women's podcast. Can't wait.
Oh, that would be good, actually.
I wasn't serious at all. We can wrap it.
Ricky, any last words?
Nope.
Okay. Ladies and gents, thanks very much for listening, and we'll speak to you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Podcast. We'll see you next time.